Welcome to the Schluter-Systems Tips and Tricks video series. I'm Andy Acker.
And I'm Aaron Woodruff.
And today we're going to give you a few tips about cutting profiles. Now, cutting profiles, Aaron, can take a little bit of precision.
It can, and the proper tools to do that with.
Okay, and we actually have another tips and tricks video on that.
Yep, that describes whether you're cutting PVC, aluminum, or stainless steel and the tools to use for that.
Okay, so one of the first tips that we should always take into consideration is the anchoring legs.
Yep.
Here we've got a couple pieces of Rondec on an outside corner, and you can see we've got an overlap there.
Yes, and so you can see right here when you're doing an outside corner with the Rondec, if you were to install that, you're going to have two layers of anchoring leg, which is going to cause one profile to sit a little bit higher than what the other will.
Right, and then the corner doesn't quite fit right either because those are uneven. So what we want to do is actually show you doing it this way.
And all we did here was just basically cut a 45 on both pieces, just with a pair of snips.
So we just mitered that out back there, and now they both sit flat.
Yep, they're all on one plane, and the corner is going to flush up, as well as the tile is going to be the same height all the way around.
Yeah, we don't want the tile to build up any thicker than it needs to be. And of course, the anchoring legs are always thinner than the bond coat you'll ever use to seat the tile, so it shouldn't pick the tile up anyway.
Correct.
So that's one way to do it. Another way to do it would be like this, where we've actually just notched it out. Instead of doing a miter, you can just notch that out, and then the two profiles will abut like that. So that's another way. The whole idea, though, is that we end up with no overlap.
And everything's on the same plane.
Yeah, okay, so that's what we're showing there. Now, how about one of our larger profiles? You get into like our Rondec step here, which is quite a bit of material.
Correct. And the trouble is, I would say, cutting through just how thick it is. Sometimes people have trouble with the anchoring leg, the blade catching, it kind of snapping or just jerking on the saw.
So laying it flat is going to be a lot safer.
Yep, you're going to be able to secure it while cutting it. One other trick that we've done, or thing that we came up with, is basically removing part of the anchoring leg as you're going through with.
Right in the blade path. Take out that little piece of anchoring leg that's going to be in the blade path.
Yep, that way when you're going through and cutting it, some people move a little too fast, and if you're moving too fast, it'll grab it and it'll snap it.
Right.
By removing that, it's going to give you less material to cut through and not the initial scare.
Yeah, I mean, and if you look here, there's even less material when you get to our smaller profile. So that little material there doesn't have enough material really to resist the blade. So instead of the blade cutting through it, like you said, it'll grab it, and that can be a little frightening. So the idea is to cut that out of the blade path and then cut the rest of the profile with the blade, right? So,
yeah, and so
here I'll just
notch it out.
Just take out this little piece here.
And another benefit of that is, I've always done it before, where you kind of you put a mark on the profile, you get it on the saw, and you really don't know where the mark is. By doing that, it's going to kind of indicate where you're cutting, a little bit easier to find your mark.
Yeah, I've done the same thing. I've marked on the face and then realized the face is going to be down. I'm not going to see it, so maybe mark somewhere where it's going to be visible.
Yes. So one thing, basically, as we talked about, just set it down on the saw. You have your area that's removed. Where the proper safety glass is.
Okay, well that was quick and trouble-free.
And the one other thing that I just want to touch base on is to make sure that your saw table is clean. Sometimes, depending on, let's say if you had thin set, you had something, I don't know, wood glue, some basically metal flakes on it.
Yeah, something abrasive. You could scratch the
You were to set this and slide that back and forth, that would be something that you would want to avoid.
All right. Now, we do have some profiles that don't come with any corners, so you're going to be doing some mitering.
Yep.
So we have our EKE here as an example. So another nice little tip would be to actually cut the miter. Like in this case, it's a 90-degree outside, so we're doing a 45 here. So we cut that first.
And this is going to make things so much easier. From experience, I've cut the profile first and then tried mitering it. The miter is nice, or I have to trim a little bit, and then you have to slide it, and now the profile is overall too short.
Again, with these snips here, you can get that nice and precise, get a good clean outside corner, and then you can measure it to length and cut and do the square cut on the other end. That's pretty simple to do.
Correct.
So you can see that that can actually look pretty good.
Yeah.
All right, another little tip. A lot of time we have materials, we have the profiles that have a soft joint in them here, like this movement joint we're looking at here.
And depending on the profile that you have, most of the replaceable rubber inserts are removable. And so what we ask you to do is when you go to cut this, basically pull that insert out. That way when you're cutting it, you're not going to do any damage to it with the heat of the blade, or if it gets jarred up. Basically, you're able to just cut through the profile and then cut the rubber insert to length.
Okay, so 2 steps here. First, we would cut the anchoring leg out of the blade path, and then we just get this out of the way for the initial cut, and then we could actually take our snips here and really just cut right through the material.
Yep, to the size that's needed. And then obviously depending on the material that you're doing, this is aluminum, but we have basically this profile that comes in stainless steel as well. And if we're going to be doing the stainless steel, that's where you wouldn't use a chop box, you would use a bandsaw, hacksaw, or the angle grinder.
Right, okay. So quite a few tips for you there about different profile cutting and so forth. So thanks, Aaron.
Thank you. If you'd like to see any of our other tips and tricks videos, please visit our website, schluter.com, or our YouTube channel.
Thanks for watching.
Thank you.